Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the St. Tammany Parish Planning Commission meeting. Today is Tuesday, May the 8th, 2018. Madam Secretary, please call the roll.
Martha Casabon. Pug Lauren. Wendell Richardson. Todd Richard. Bernie Willie. Dave Manella.
Here.
Jimmy Davis. Patrick Fitzmaurice. Dave Dougherty. Kirk Drum. Ron Randolph.
We have a quorum. This time we would respectfully ask you to silence your phones and any other electronic devices. If you wish to appeal any decision by this commission, appeals cards are to our right. If you wish to speak in front of the commission, please fill out a speaker's card for your name and address to be on record. Each side will provide 10 minutes to present and or oppose, with 5 minutes to rebut. Lastly, at the end of each case, if you wish to discuss it further, we would ask that you go outside the building, as if you go back into the foyer, it does echo into the chamber. This time we would ask you to rise with the invocation by Commissioner Randolph, followed by the Pledge of Allegiance by Commissioner Richard.
Gracious Father, once again we come to you to say thank you for all the blessings you bestowed on our lives and for your grace and mercy. We thank you for taking care of us, our families, and our homes. Lord, we thank you for this commission. We thank you for those in the audience, and we thank you for this parish and our government as a whole. Bless us, be with all of our staff and our employees, and all these blessings we ask in your holy name. Amen. Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
In our packets, we have the minutes from the April 10th, 2018 meeting. If you'd please review them, and I will entertain any amendments, questions, or motions. Commissioner Fitzmaurice.
Move for approval.
Motion by Commissioner Fitzmaurice to approve. Commissioner Dougherty.
Second.
Second by Commissioner Dougherty. Any further comment? If not, we have a motion by Commissioner Fitzmaurice to approve. Second by Commissioner Dougherty. Please vote.
Motion passed.
This is a public hearing. The public is encouraged to speak on behalf of or in opposition to any case brought before the commission. Entering parish right-of-way, servitudes, easements. Entering parish right-of-way, Lion Street, Ward 3, District 2. Request to enter parish right-of-way for the purpose of gaining access to property. The debtor, Tammany Terrace, LLC. Parish Council District Representative, the Honorable David Fitzgerald. Staff.
Yes, this enter the right-of-way is specifically the unopened portion of Lion Street and Tammany Terrace subdivision for the purpose of gaining access to property.
Thank you. Mr. Marone.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Paul Marone on behalf of Tammany Terrace, LLC. My client is the owner of the lots that flank each side of Lion Street in this portion of Tammany Terrace subdivision. We're requesting authority to enter Lion Street for the purpose of constructing it so that we can gain access to our lots. We have reviewed the resolution by the staff, have no objections, understand that we will have to have the required detention for these lots. We have that planned and prepared to go, and we would respectfully request your approval of our request to enter the right-of-way.
Thank you, Mr. Marone. Is there anyone else in the public who wishes to speak in favor of the request? Is there anyone who wishes to speak in opposition? Seeing none, I close it to the public and I bring it to the commission. Commissioner Dougherty.
Yes, Paul, what, are these lots going to have central water and sewer?
These lots will not have central sewer. They will have central water through Lee Road Water Corporation that has water lines in this area, so we'll be extending those lines to it.
Okay, but each lot will have individual plants?
That's correct.
Okay, and what's the lot size?
90 by 120.
Okay,
So
I
the-
couldn't read it on the.
Yeah, they're larger than your typical subdivision of record lots.
Right. Okay, I'll move for approval.
Motion by Commissioner Dougherty to approve. Commissioner Randolph, second. Any further comments? We have a motion by Commissioner Dougherty to approve, second by Commissioner Randolph. Please vote.
Motion passed.
Minor subdivisions, 2018-986-MSP, a combined 16.301 acres into parcels G1, G2, G3, and M1, Ward 8, District 9. The owner, Mark and Glenn Holly, surveyor J.V. Burks and Associates, Inc., Parish Council District Representative, the Honorable Gene Belisario. This case was postponed from the April 10th, 2018 meeting. Staff?
The owner is proposing to create 4 parcels from a parent parcel totaling 16.301 acres. As noted above, proposed parcel M1 does not meet the required 150 lot frontage on Hidden Oak Lane for the A2 suburban zoning district. However, it is noted that said parcel has 3 separate accesses on Hidden Oak Lane that totals approximately 96 feet. Furthermore, 2 of the parcels would be accessed by a private drive, therefore must be constructed to a minimum parish standard in accordance with Section 125, 189 minimum construction standards for a private drive. If the commission decides to approve this request, a waiver of the regulations is required relative to the parcel width issue, and a 2/3 majority vote of full membership of the commission is needed in order to approve.
Thank you. Petitioner?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Matthew Crane with Jones Roussel Law Firm, P.O. Box 1810, Covington, 70434. This matter, we represent Mark and Glenn Holly, the applicants and owners. This matter was on your April 10th agenda, and upon our request was postponed because Councilman Belisario had asked that we provide some additional information. That additional information was a drainage plan, and while we don't believe a drainage plan is required at this stage of the process, we agreed to do so. J.V. Burks and Associates is working on that plan right now, but it is not yet complete. We're hopeful that it'll be complete by next month's meeting. With that being said, we would respectfully request that this case be postponed for 1 more month. If you have any questions, I'd be happy to answer them.
Thank you. Is there anyone else in the public who wishes to speak on behalf of the postponement? Is there anyone who wishes to speak in opposition? Pardon me, is there someone who wishes to speak? No. This time I'd close it to the public and bring it to the commission. Commissioner Dougherty?
Yes, this is for staff. On these 3 cuts into Hidden Oaks Lane that adds up to the 96 feet, is that really a good practice to have that many cuts into Hidden Oaks Lane?
This staff report was written by Ron. I did not write the staff report, and I am not certain if that is common practice or not.
Okay, then I'll go to Matthew then. These 3 cuts going into Hidden Oaks Lane? Okay.
I'm Sean Burks. We did the survey work. We're doing the drainage work right now. Currently, there is a kind of a retention pond on the parcel M1, and one of those discharges is actually a drainage ditch. So they're not all access parts, but there is a drainage servitude. There's one of them that's 15 feet wide.
Okay. Now, which one is? That's the 15 foot?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Do you intend to use the 51 foot?
My understanding is that 51 feet would be for the private drive going into the site for parcel M1.
Okay. All right. And, Matthew, y'all are requesting that this be postponed for 1 month?
Yeah, we hope that Sean's crew can get the drainage plan in the next month.
Sean, is that something that, will happen, or do we need to postpone this for 2 months?
We're working really hard to try to get it done as soon as possible. We do have many people we want to meet around the area, including the parish maintenance barn person. So we are taking a look. We're doing a little bit more than we normally do for drainage because there are some issues around that area. We're going to use this as an opportunity to try to identify some of those problems. So.
All right, I'll make a motion to postpone for 1 month, but I don't want to see it roll another month, okay?
Motion by Commissioner Dougherty to postpone for 1 month. Commissioner Randolph.
Second.
Second by Commissioner Randolph. Commissioner Lauren.
Mr. Crane, one quick question. Is there any dwellings on any of these, on any of this property now?
No, on the 16 acres that is being proposed to be developed into 4 different lots, there are no dwellings.
There's no dwellings, it's raw land right now.
Correct. There's probably 10 to 12 dwellings on Hidden Oak Lane, which adjoins this property.
Okay, thank you.
Any further questions? If not, we have a motion by Commissioner Dougherty to postpone for 1 month, second by Commissioner Randolph. Please vote.
Motion passed.
2018-1004-MSP, a minor subdivision of 30.275 acre tracts into tract 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. Ward 7, District 7. Owner, Equitana Farms, LLC. Surveyor, J.V. Burks and Associates, Inc. Parish Council District Representative, the Honorable Jacob Groby III. Staff.
The owner is proposing to create 5 parcels from a combined 30.275 acres. Because more than one of the parcels is accessed by a private drive, the drive must be constructed to a minimum parish standard in accordance to Section 125, 189 minimum construction standards for private drive. Staff has no objection to the request.
Thank you. Mr. Burks.
So I'm Sean Burks, representing the petitioner. If anybody has any questions, I'm here.
And the reason for the request, Mr. Burks?
They just want to go ahead and split it up for some family pieces of property and to build houses on it eventually.
Thank you. Is there anyone else in the public who wishes to speak in favor of the request? Yes, sir. Please come to the podium, state your name and address for the record.
William M. Bond, 29062 Little Dixie Ranch Road. I've been living there for 15 years, and Mr. Morrow owned that property before that. Well, not my property, but the property around. And I didn't have a road to my property at that time. And to show you what kind of neighbor Tim Morrow, he allowed me to have access to the road unconditionally. And he's been a great neighbor. St. Tammany is really lucky to have a person like that.
Thank you, sir. Is there anyone else in the public who wishes to speak in favor of the request? Is there anyone who wishes to speak in opposition? Seeing none, I close it to the public and I bring it to the commission. Commissioner Davis.
I'll make a motion to approve.
Motion by Commissioner Davis to approve. Commissioner Lauren.
I'll second.
Second by Commissioner Lauren. Any further comments? If not, we have a motion by Commissioner Davis to approve, second by Commissioner Lauren. Please vote.
Motion passed.
2018-1011-MSP, a minor subdivision of 10.75 acre parcel of land into parcels A and B, Ward 3, District 2. The owner, Heather Case. Surveyor, Land Surveying, LLC. Parish Council District Representative, the Honorable David Fitzgerald. Staff.
The owner is proposing to create two parcels from one parent parcel. Parcel B does not meet the minimum lot frontage requirement for 300 feet for an A1 suburban zoning district, which will require a waiver of the regulations by the commission. Staff acknowledges that the petitioner is dividing the property along the existing drive and residence. However, the proposed property line could be more compliant with parish ordinance. Since a waiver of the regulations are required in order to approve this minor subdivision request relative to a lot width issue, a 2/3 majority vote of the full membership of the commission is needed to approve.
Is the petitioner here? If you come to the podium, ma'am, state your name and address for the record and the reason for the request.
My name is Heather Case, 605 South Vermont Street, Covington, Louisiana. I would like to subdivide this piece of property to give me more options in being able to sell the property. The property's been on the market for 2.5 years, and I would like to see if this could jumpstart more of a sales situation for me. I worked with the surveyor, and the way we subdivided it made the most sense for the piece of property.
Thank you. Is there anyone else in the public who wishes to speak in favor of the request? Is there anyone who wishes to speak in opposition? Yes, ma'am.
My name is Bruce Nesbitt. I live at 16080 Riverside Drive, Covington.
You can bring that microphone down to you.
Yeah, thank you. I'm very torn here. I used to live on this property before Ms. Case's dad passed away, so I'm familiar with it, and I understand her problem exactly. It's a difficult piece of property. However, this is along what's called the estate section of Highway 25, where there are a lot of nice houses that back up to the river. And my fear is that if we allow this exception, which I fully understand why she wants it, then what's to stop an exception for the next one? Actually, the parcel right to the south of her, the owner of whom is here tonight, has pretty much the same thing. A little over 10 acres, could be divided into two parcels when her heirs take over, but not enough room for the frontage on the highway. And my fear is that if we allow this, that she's going to have a driveway, an outlet onto the highway. The Department of Transportation is going to have to approve it. There's just not, it's just not feasible. I pulled out of that driveway many years to turn south to go to work, and it's hard. Highway 25 is busy in there. And if you add an extra driveway for every one of these 10-acre parcels, it's going to get to be kind of crazy. But I do have a question. If Ms. Case, if you all approve this and she subdivides the property, who decides about the driveways? The Department of Transportation, then she has to go to them to get a culvert put in to access parcel B?
Staff?
Yeah, I believe that's correct. This is gonna be a DOTD state highway.
So when the realtor is selling it, they disclose this, that they'd have to get special permission? How does that work? Does she have to disclose it to the purchaser? Do they know they're buying a piece of property that needs an exception by DOTD?
I don't believe it's an exception. I believe DOTD would grant them access to the highway.
Oh, if you all approve it, then they'll automatically get access to the highway, even though it's not 300 feet? I thought you had to have 300 feet for a driveway. That's the way I understood it.
The 300 feet is a minimum lot frontage for the subdivision regulations for the parish, and it doesn't have anything to do with DOTD's requirements.
So DOTD doesn't care how many driveways are jammed together? That has no deal?
We can't really speak for DOTD.
That would be a question for DOTD.
For DOTD.
not
Right, but
for
I
us.
have another question. The way the driveway is now, you could share, I know you can't share driveways. Helen told me that they couldn't share a driveway. But could they not share an entrance onto the highway? If you were to allow this, could it be that the entrance, right to the right of the entrance, there's an opening into that open area to the right side, to the south, on the south parcel, the driveway comes in, and then right there within feet, you could cut a driveway off of the main driveway, but only have one culvert is what I'm saying. Just you would still have one opening onto the highway, but she could. Can you share the culvert and not share a driveway? If they put the driveway within just feet of that opening, she could access that southern parcel without adding another culvert on the highway between the existing culvert and the culvert to the south owned by the Baileys. No?
Commissioner Casabon?
Okay, because remember the subdivision we just put in by Lake Ramsey?
Yes.
And we approved, we were all excited and had 2 driveways there. And, you know, right by the Ramsey grocery.
They do,
And
they
then
do
that-
care about the number of driveways.
Oh, yes,
Yes.
because they did not, you know, approve that one.
Exactly.
And we didn't know. So they really do, the state really does look at it. This is part of our regulations. It just so happens it's on 25.
Right.
So they would have to meet, if we did approve this, we would have to meet the waiver saying it's okay to divide this into 2. The state would decide on the driveways or the numbers of the culverts.
So it's conceivable that you could allow the subdivision, but the state could say, no, you can't put in another driveway.
Possibly, they did it on the one right down the road, so,
I'm not here to wave a flag and object. I just, and these driveways, there's more land along this highway that fits this sort of description where if you allow this one, will you have to allow the next one and the next one?
No.
It's just a thought. You wouldn't.
No, we take each case on its own merits.
yeah.
We don't have to.
Right.
Especially the request in this one is for a variance,
Right.
so we would take each case on their own merits.
Could the culvert be shared if the driveway split right at the entrance? Because we did that at Mill Farm Estates on $1 Million Road. Remember, we combined driveways. They split, but they shared culverts. Could that?
But it's kind of like after we approved them dividing this up and the waiver on the frontage, the state will decide.
This is the state.
This
That was
is
a
the
parish.
state.
That was a parish
Right.
road.
Yeah.
Okay. That's it.
I understand what you're saying,
Yeah.
but
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. Is there anyone else who would like to speak in opposition? If not, ma'am, you have 5 minutes to rebut if you'd like to say anything additional.
I considered a shared driveway situation, but after speaking with many people, a shared driveway with 2 separate owners tends to be problematic. There is, in my opinion, enough property to handle another driveway. And the way the driveways now are on Folsom Highway, So, thank you.
Thank you. Ma'am, any further comments? This time I would close it to the commission and I would bring it to close it to the public and bring it to the commission. Commissioner Davis.
Yeah, I think since the zoning, it meets all the zoning requirements, and again, the DOT will determine whether or not that driveway can be built and such. I don't have a problem with this, and I'll make a motion to approve with the waiver.
Motion by Commissioner Davis to approve with waiver. Commissioner Fitzmaurice.
Second.
Second by Commissioner Fitzmaurice. Any further comments? If not, we have a motion by Commissioner Davis to approve with the waiver, second by Commissioner Fitzmaurice. Remind the commission that it will take 8 votes. Please vote.
Motion passed.
Thank you. 2018-1014-MSP, a minor subdivision of Lot 3 and 4 being 6.17 acres and 2.11 acres into lots 3A and 4A, Ward 2, District 6. The owner, David and Darlene Melton, Surveyor, Land Surveying, LLC. Parish Council District Representative, the Honorable Richard Tanner. Staff.
The property recently went through the rezoning process to change the zoning from A1 to A2, and that was approved by the zoning commission. Staff acknowledges the property line could be adjusted to be more compliant since the waiver of the regulations are required in order to approve this minor subdivision request relative to the lot width issue. A 2/3 majority vote of the full membership of the commission is needed.
Is the petitioner here? Please come to the podium, sir. State your name and address for the record.
My name's David Melton. It's 80438 Section Road, Covington, 70435.
And the reason for the request, sir?
The reason for the request is to clean up some old paperwork that was done. Back in 2004, this property was surveyed and what I thought was subdivided at that time. Those surveys were never recorded. Subsequent to that, the subdivision laws had changed and other zoning laws, and that's what she had just referenced. And we're just trying to clean it up because today it's not clean.
Thank you, sir. Is there anyone else in the public who wishes to speak in favor? Is there anyone who wishes to speak in opposition? Seeing none, I close to the public and bring it to the commission. Commissioner Casabon.
Yes, Mr. Milton, nothing's really going to change. We're just cleaning it because that's the residence that's on there. It's just a matter of the paperwork and us doing the survey that y'all had to do, because you came before us once before, right. And I thought this was taken care of and stuff, but I'll make a motion to approve.
Thank you.
Motion by Commissioner Casabon to approve. Commissioner Randolph.
Second.
Second by Commissioner Randolph. Commissioner Davis.
Mr. Melton?
Yes, sir.
There's currently people living in both of these residences?
Yes, sir.
Are they related?
Yes, sir.
So the person that lives on the 2.11 acres isn't going to cut off the driveway access to the person above it, right?
No, sir, I own them both.
All right, that's all, just checking out. I wanted to make sure you weren't going to build another road going
No,
like with the previous case. Okay, thank you.
Commissioner Dougherty.
This is really, Tara, how would you look at increasing the road frontage whenever it's almost right up against one of the residents?
Can you say that again?
Well, in your comments here, you said the staff acknowledges the property line could be adjusted to be more compliant with parish ordinance. What did staff have in mind there?
That the property line could be shifted over, or they could have created a flag lot. But I believe that they were coming in to clean up an already existing survey that wasn't done through our office. So this is how they wanted it done.
Okay, thank you.
Any other comments of the commission? We have a motion by Commissioner Casabon to approve with waiver. Second by Commissioner Randolph. Again, remind the commission it will take 8 votes. Please vote.
Motion passed.
2018-1015-MSP, a minor subdivision of 4.07 acre parcel into parcels A, B, C, and D, Ward 9, District 11. The owner, the Rosemary Gunn and Willie Gunn Revocable Trust, Surveyor, Land Surveying, LLC. Parish Council District Representative, the Honorable Steve Stefanczyk. Staff.
The reason for the public hearing is that parcel A does not meet the minimum lot width of 150 feet. However, staff recommends the case be postponed for parcel modification or for the rezoning of the property. Parcel D does not meet the minimum lot size of 1 acre for A2 suburban district. This parcel would need to be either incorporated into parcel C or rezoned to A3, which allows for half-acre parcels.
Thank you. Ma'am, if you'll state your name and address.
Michelle Panino, 77230 Panino Road, Covington, Louisiana.
And the reason for the request.
I'd like to get a new subdivision, a new survey. So that's why we need to postpone, please.
You'd like to postpone for 1 month? Or what, how much time?
That should be enough time, yes.
1 month?
Yes.
Thank you, ma'am. Is there anyone else in the public who wishes to speak in favor of the request to postpone? Anyone who wishes to speak in opposition? Seeing none, I close it to the public and bring it to the commission. Commissioner Casabon.
Motion to postpone for 1 month.
Commissioner Randolph.
Second.
Motion by Commissioner Casabon to postpone for 1 month, second by Commissioner Randolph. Any other questions? Please vote.
Motion passed.
Petitions, request entering the Tammany Trace, revocations, closing review. We have none. Re-subdivision review, 2018-1006-MRP, North Shore Beach, lots 8A and parcel A into lots AB, Ward 9, District 13. The owner, Mary Landrew, surveyor, Kelly J. McHugh and Associates, Inc. Parish Council District Representative, the Honorable S. Michelle Blanchard. Staff.
The owner is proposing to re-subdivide two 50 by 20-foot parcels into one 100-foot by 20-foot parcel. A public hearing was required for this proposal because the new lot does not meet the minimum lot area of 5,000 square feet. The applicant is requesting to create a larger parcel and does not have the ability to acquire additional property in order to meet the minimum standard. Staff has no objection to the request. If the commission decides to approve the request, a waiver of the regulations are required relative to the parcel size. A 2/3 majority vote, a full membership of the commission is needed in order to approve.
Thank you. Is the petitioner here?
Yes, Emily Palumbo with Wagoner and Ball LLC, representing the owner.
And the reason for the request?
This property.
You can move the microphone up.
Thank you. This property is along Carr Drive in the North Beach subdivision, and so it is the canal side lots. The owner was originally owned the 8A lot, which and recently purchased the adjacent 20 by 50. And so the request is to combine the two lots is to eventually construct a boathouse along the canal. We've been working with the planning department, with Sydney Fontenot and Helen Lambert to kind of come to an agreement about what the setback will be and other design issues, but we would come before the planning commission again to request approval to build on a substandard lot. But the request today is simply to combine the two parcels into a single parcel.
Thank you. Is there anyone else in the public who wishes to speak in favor of the request? Is there anyone who wishes to speak in opposition? Seeing none, I close it to the public and bring it to the commission. Commissioner Dougherty.
Yes, Mr. Chairman, I'd go ahead and make a motion to approve.
With the waiver?
Yes.
Motion by Commissioner Dougherty to approve with the waiver. Commissioner Randolph.
Second.
Second by Commissioner Randolph. Any further comments? Not, we have a motion by Commissioner Dougherty to approve with the waiver, second by Commissioner Randolph. Again, it will take 8 votes. Please vote.
Motion passed.
Thank you.
Dormant subdivision review, we have none. Tentative subdivision review, 2017-839-TP. Lone Oak Park, Phase 2, Ward 8, District 14. Developer owner, Mark Grimaldi. Engineer, J.V. Burks and Associates, Inc. Parish Council District Representative, the Honorable T.J. Smith. This was postponed at the March 13th meeting, was postponed at the April 10th meeting, and the developer requests postponement for the May 8th meeting. Staff?
We have no further comments. Developer requested postponement.
Thank you. Mr. Shane?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Jeff Shane of the Jones Fussell Law Firm, P.O. Box 1810 in Covington. I believe that when we made the request last month, we envisioned the possibility of coming back to you in June, not in May, with regard to this case. It seems to me, though, in light of some of the problems we're experiencing in getting this case ready to come to you, I'd like to request that you postpone it indefinitely so that it will not be on your agenda. We still owe meetings with Councilman Belisario and Smith, and we also have an obligation to have a community meeting. Once we've kind of taken care of that business, we will make sure that the public has adequate notice. You can place it on the agenda. We'll come back before you.
Thank you, Mr. Shane.
Thank you, sir.
Is there anyone else in the public who wishes to speak in favor of the postponement? Is there anyone who wishes to speak in opposition? Seeing none, I close it to the public and bring it to the commission. Commissioner Davis.
Yeah, I'll make a motion to postpone indefinitely.
Motion by Commissioner Davis to postpone indefinitely. Commissioner Dougherty.
I'll second, but I have a question for Mr. Shane also.
Second by Commissioner Dougherty. Please proceed.
There is a problem with the utility company, as I know you're aware of.
Yes, sir.
Are they making any headway on this, or is it still?
Yes, sir. There is some headway. I think that there is a possibility that there will be availability of water from Tessie, and we're now exploring the possibility of maybe having a private sewer system on site, which would require, obviously, approvals from various state agencies, but we're looking at some options. And that's really where we've been bogged down, is trying to make sure that we can provide utilities, sewer and water to the site.
Yeah,
so we are now looking at other options.
Yeah, that company has really not done their job in getting things taken care of, let's put it that way. Thank you.
Thank you.
Any other comments of the commission? If not, we have a motion by Commissioner Davis to postpone indefinitely, second by Commissioner Dougherty. Please vote.
Motion passed.
Preliminary subdivision review, 2018-922-PP. Lakeshore Villages, Phase 3A, Ward 9, District 13. Developer owner D.R. Horton Incorporated, engineer Duplantis Design Group, P.C. Parish Council District Representative, the Honorable Michelle Blanchard. This was postponed at the February 14th, 2018 meeting, as well as the April 10th, 2018 meeting. Staff?
Preliminary plans and hydrologic study have been reviewed by this office, and an inspection of the site was made. The following comments must be resolved before a work order is issued. General comment number 1, the preliminary plat of Lakeshore Villages Phase 3A proposes that all of the 50-foot right-of-ways are to be owned and maintained by the parish. The preliminary plat of Phase 3A indicates that the parish shall have access to the roads in Phase 3A via private roads. The private roads are located in Lakeshore Estates Phase 2A and Lakeshore Villages Phase 1A. Phases 1A and 2A designate all 3 roads as private roads. Phases 1A and 2A plats were recorded on January 16, 2007 and April 13, 2006, respectively. The parish cannot accept roads into the parish maintenance system without access via parish-maintained roads. Therefore, an act of correction to Phases 1A and 2A must be executed and recorded prior to Phase 3A final approval. The act of correction must designate the referenced roads as public roads dedicated to and maintained by the parish. If the developer chooses the act of correction option, the referenced roads, including all associated road drainage infrastructure, must be brought up to parish standards before the referenced roads are accepted into the parish maintenance system. Alternatively, all roads in Phase 3A must be private, not parish-maintained, that are owned and maintained by the developer, CDD, or homeowners association. Comment 2, the dedication statement in Phase 3A must be consistent with the above comment and with regard to all roads, drainage infrastructure, and drainage servitudes in Phase 3A. Comment 3, if the roads are to be maintained by the parish, all gates that potentially obstruct parish access to parish-maintained roads must be removed. Number 4, the TIA for the entire Lakeshore Estates development is currently under review by St.Tammany Parish. Number 5, a completed fill and grading statement is required for this development. Number 6, Oak Harbor East Utility does not currently have the required sewer capacity to service Phase 3A. The required sewer capacity must be constructed and accepted by the utility provider before construction of any homes, including spec homes, is permitted. Additionally, all plans required for the expansion of the wastewater treatment plant must be submitted to the parish for review and approval. Number 7, all applicable state, local, and federal permits for this project must be provided. Department of Planning. Number 8, number 1, under the notes, top right-hand corner of the plat needs to be amended to state specifically from what the front, side, and corner rear yard setbacks are for the lots in the subdivision. Informational items. No mandatory developmental fees are required at final submittal in accordance with Code of Ordinances, Land Development Code, Chapter 125, Subdivision Regulations, since a public hearing was held prior to January 1st, 2005. The developer is hereby advised that upon application for final subdivision approval, the engineer of record for the development shall certify in writing that all aspects of construction have been completed in accordance with the approved plans and parish ordinances. If any construction activity is proposed that is not in substantial compliance with the approved plans and parish ordinances, the engineer of record for the development shall notify in writing the Department of Development prior to beginning said construction activity. The developer and/or engineer of record shall obtain written approval from the Department of Development prior to beginning any proposed construction activity that's not in substantial compliance with the approved plans and parish ordinances. Revised drawings will not be accepted prior to the May 8th, 2018 Planning Commission meeting to ensure that any additional comments at the meeting can be incorporated into the revised plans.
Thank you. Mr. Shane?
Thank you, Mr. Manella. Again, Jeff Shane with the Jones Fussell Law Firm at P.O. Box 1810 in Covington, representing the owner and developer, D.R. Horton, Inc. I'd like to start by saying that we are in substantial agreement with all the comments made by staff. I'd like to then maybe be a little more particular to areas that perhaps need some clarification. And I think it might ease our discussion if I could start with item 3 under the general comments, not forgetting items 1 and 2, but I'll come to them last. With regard to item 3, we had previously agreed and continue to agree that any gates that are erected will in fact be dismembered or will come down, so that there will be no impediment or obstruction to access. With regard to item 4, the TIA has been submitted. We have spoken with staff and do not believe that there are any problematic issues as it relates to the TIA, and we understand that we'll have to respond to their comments and understand that they should be forthcoming in the very near future, if not this week, certainly next week. With regard to the fill and grading statement, we understand that that's a requirement, and it in fact will be timely submitted. Item 6, with regard to the sewer capacity, we do have in fact a contract with the provider, Oak Harbor East Utility. It does in fact need to expand its facilities in order to service our development. A contract to that extent is on my client's desk, and we understand that that's a contract that not only needs to be entered into, but the comment clearly states that the capacity must be available before these houses, even the model homes, are constructed. So we understand that condition and certainly accept it. Item 7 is sort of a catch-all, but we certainly understand that any applicable laws that require permitting, et cetera, must be addressed, and we will provide those. Item 8, we will certainly satisfy and amend the plat accordingly. Coming back to comments 1 and really 2, which are related, we believe, well, let me digress. At 1:30 today, the development team, that would include Mr. Valley, Mr. Buckles with DDG, my engineer, 2 other representatives, Horton, had a very constructive 1-hour conference call with the parish that included Mr. Savant, Ms. Hinton, and Mr. Watson. And most of our time was spent talking about comments 1 and 2. They will certainly have an opportunity to speak to the extent they might disagree with my summary. But we agreed that I would try to provide a summary of what we not only talked about, but what we agreed to. Conceptually, we all agreed that there is no reason that if you feel the requirements have been satisfied, that preliminary should not be granted this evening. With that having been said, there is definitely an open issue as it relates to a possible need for a cooperative endeavor agreement or an intergovernmental agreement between the Parish of St. Tammany and the Community Development District. And as you will remember, in this project, the main skeleton of road for the development is actually owned by the Community Development District. That's the 90-foot wide right-of-way that's referred to in the comments. So although Mr. Savant, perhaps 2 to 3 months ago at the time tentative was granted, you may remember he opined to you that the roads owned and maintained by the CDD were in fact public roads. So we've sort of through that hurdle, but we have not really connected all of the dots as it relates to the 50-foot wide right-of-ways, which we intend to construct, donate, and dedicate to the Parish of St. Tammany and let them go into their maintenance system. All of those 50-foot right-of-ways would connect to or feed into the 90-foot wide right-of-ways owned by the CDD. So not only as it relates to the road surfaces and the rights of access, but you also have drainage that flows through those right-of-ways as well. And so it's sort of like having two systems, if you will, albeit both public. You have a parish system and a CDD system. So we understand and agree that there needs to be delineation of responsibilities, rights, and obligations between the parties, which we believe should be undertaken and can be completed before we come back to you for final. None of that affects the quality or standard of any of the improvements to be built. Obviously, we have to meet code. It will be really a question of who owns what, who has an obligation to maintain what, who has an access right, perhaps to roads perhaps that are owned and controlled by the CDD. To the extent that the comments suggest that the designation of private roads on the other, the prior recorded plats need to be revised, we agree with that, because those roads are actually owned by the CDD. They're not private roads. So I believe that that's something, again, that we'll probably accomplish through an act of correction under old business before this commission, something that you do on occasion when obviously a notation or note on a plat is incorrect or perhaps could be better phrased. So we are at peace with the current state of discussions with the parish. Preliminary subdivision approval allows us to continue to perfect the applications that are pending for various permits and ultimately allow us to get a limited and eventually a full work order to construct the phase, recognizing that the questions raised in comment 1 have to have hard answers by the time we come back to you at final. Hopefully that's been reasonably accurate. If not, I have the feeling someone will comment. Otherwise, if any of you have any questions at the right time, I'll be glad to address them.
Thank you, Mr. Shane. Is there anyone else in the public who wishes to speak in favor of the request? Is there anyone who wishes to speak in opposition? Seeing none, I close it to the public and bring it to the commission. Commissioner Willie.
Mr. Shane, you mentioned about the possibility or a scenario where the 50-foot right-of-ways would be dedicated to the parish. Will there be any improvements to those right-of-ways, or are they just brushed over land that's left as right-of-way, or is there any type of improvements?
There would be the local streets throughout the phase. If you look at the plat in front of you, it would really be the series or the network of all the 50-foot wide right-of-ways that would have the local streets that service that phase.
So they would be built to parish spec before they did?
Absolutely.
Okay. Thank you.
Commissioner Davis.
Yes, Mrs. Shane. On the plat itself, looking at your green space calculation, you have 1.618 acres for the lake. On the on the open green space calculation on the plat, it says 1.616 acres for the lake. But the lake looks like it's 3.235. Does that mean it's half the lake?
For open space calculations, you're only able to utilize 50%.
Yeah, okay. How are people from Phase 3A going to access the lake if 3B is not complete?
How are people in Phase 3A
3A,
going to access
Yeah, I mean, you
the
have.
lake?
Yeah, you have Phase 3A separate from the actual development for 3A. And I'm just wondering, how are they gonna access that as green space?
Well, actually, what you're looking at is not an entire, as you will remember, your tentative included the entirety. So we will be constructing all of the streets in that phase.
Oh, good, okay.
If need be, I mean, if the commission wants, we can grant a servitude through that area to the lake until that area is in fact built out.
I think that would be sufficient,
Okay.
if that's agreed upon with everybody else, but I'll make a motion for that, actually. To have some sort of servitude access to the Phase 3. I see you have a drainage servitude already there, so I guess they could access that maybe unless it's.
I mean, technically, until the final plat is recorded, there are no servitudes that are in place. So remember, if you will, that there are other amenities that we have presented to the commission really at the time, I guess, of the PUD amendment as it relates to the development. So there will be other opportunities, if you will, to access the lake and have other recreation opportunities. You are correct in that technically there is a separation between the lake and the phase. And again, if you want us to include a servitude, we will determine a path, if you will, that would provide a servitude to make sure those people would have access.
Right. I'll make a motion to approve for that.
With the amendment,
With the
servitude.
amendment, servitude to the
Motion by
lake that's
Commissioner
included in the
Davis
green space.
to approve as amended.
Yes.
Commissioner Dougherty.
Yes, will this be a permanent servitude, Jimmy?
Yes. I was just discussing that with my engineer. What I intend is when I present the final plat to you, you will see a permanent servitude that connects the constructed infrastructure to the lake. So that when the plat's recorded, that servitude will be a legal right of record for the benefit of the people in the subdivision.
Yeah, because the way I saw it on the plat, the folks in Phase 3A were gonna have a problem getting to the lake without some type of a walkway servitude or something there.
We will provide an umbilical cord, a significant servitude, a passageway where you will have access from that phase to the lake.
I guess the other question I've got, Mr. Shane, is, once again, we've got, I'm gonna say some significant items, on our report here, and, it's gonna take some time, I think, at least 30 days to work some of these legal issues out. And with that in mind, I'm of the mind to postpone this till our next meeting and give you all time to work with our legal department and you and the developer and get all the if, ands, buts, whereases, and therefores worked out.
May I respond to that?
Well, first, Commissioner Dougherty, you want to make a motion to postpone for 1 month, or would you like to question Mr. Shane?
I was asking Mr. Shane, since there are so many items here, and it looks like this item 1 and 2 are going to take a little bit of time to get worked out, about postponing it for 1 month, and that'll give our legal and Mr. Shane and the developer an opportunity to get all the ifs and buts worked out.
Mr. Shane, if you'd like to respond before Mr. Dougherty makes a motion to do so. If you
Sure, I
care to respond.
appreciate that courtesy. Well, with all due respect, I will ask staff to comment if they feel otherwise, but this report is not filled with a lot of conditions that have not been satisfied or very close to being satisfied, other than item 1. I want to make sure maybe I should have gone into greater length.
No, I understand that.
Okay, so if we're going to concentrate then on item 1 alone, I would suggest to you that issue cannot be solved in a month, but it's not an issue that needs to be solved until the project's ready to come to you at final. Preliminary, as you know, would put the developer in a position to begin construction of the improvements, and item 1 does not affect the location, the quality, the standard of construction, et cetera. It's a very important issue. I'm not minimizing it, but we envision that it's probably going to take 6 to 7 months to construct the phase. So we think that there's an adequate window. In fact, Mr. Savant, Ms. Hinton, and I spoke before the meeting about sort of next steps as to what we need, who needs to be in the huddle to figure out the solutions to item 1. So with all due respect, we would hope that you would reconsider your thought of postponement, allow us to proceed with preliminary, and it's incumbent upon us to have this issue resolved when we come back to you for final. That's a risk we're willing to take.
Okay.
Commissioner Dougherty, if we may, council would like to give some input.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Only to affirm what Mr. Shane has said in regards to the comments about the roads, particularly accessing Phase 3 of the development. And he is correct in that, as was discussed at the tentative review, the boulevards, I'll call them, going to Phase 3 are public. They are essentially owned and operated by the Community Development District, a public entity. So to the extent that there is public access to Phase 3, that does exist. There, on the preliminary plat, there is a reference to the dedication of the roads within Phase 3. I think that the language within there discussing the 50-foot roads dedicated to the public is sufficient. And I mentioned this to Mr. Shane. I think that the language used in referencing the 90-foot boulevard extension, I'll call it, talks about dedicating to the CDD. I think for clarification purposes, that really should say dedicated to the public, and then go on to talk about an extension of the CDD operation and maintenance of that extension. And I believe that Mr. Shane understood that and agreed to make that slight change, just to make sure that anyone reading the preliminary plat for this phase sees where it is the intent of the developer to dedicate to the public any roads that are being constructed in conjunction with the development of this phase. The issue of who is going to be maintaining them will need to be addressed. It doesn't need to be addressed, in my opinion, at this time in conjunction with preliminary subdivision review, but like Mr. Shane said, in further discussions regarding the potential cooperative endeavor agreement, intergovernmental agreement, or possibly servitudal agreements by and between likely multiple parties to include the parish, the developer, the community development district, and perhaps others. But to the extent that preliminary subdivision review is being considered that includes public access to this phase, I think that that is in place.
Mr. Shane,
Yes, sir.
on item 6, let me be sure I understood it correctly. The agreement is on the owner's desk to sign to get this wastewater plant increased in size?
Yes, sir. We understand there's definitely insufficient capacity. It's got to be enlarged, and we understand it's our job to enter into a contract with them and have them actually provide the capacity before we can construct even a model home.
Okay, that was the other part of the question, was until they get the capacity in place, you cannot even pull a permit even for the spec homes.
We understand that as the comment states, but we affirm that again this evening. Yes,
Thank
sir.
you.
Thank you.
Commissioner Dougherty, just for the record, you did not make a motion.
No, I did not.
Thank you. Commissioner Casabon.
Yes, I think as council has stated and Mr. Shane has stated, these are items, number 1 and number 6, that will not happen overnight, that I think they need to proceed with preliminary in their understanding that until all these things are taken care of, there won't be a final. And I think that's understood by all. I'll make a motion to approve.
Would you care to second?
Oh, the second one. Second, sorry.
Thank you. As amended, correct?
Because that's right. Because then
Any other comments of the commission? If not, we have a motion by Commissioner Davis to approve as amended to include the servitude right-of-way to the lake. Second by Commissioner Casabon. Please vote.
Motion passed.
2018-990-PP, Dove Park Estates, Ward 4, District 5. Developer owner, Dove Park Estates, LLC. Engineer, Duplantis Design Group, PC. Parish Council District Representative, the Honorable Riker Taladano. This was postponed at the March 13th, 2018 meeting, as well as the April 10th, 2018 meeting. Staff?
Preliminary plans and hydrologic study have been reviewed by this office, and an inspection of the site was made. The following comments must be resolved before a work order is issued. General comments, number 1, all applicable state, local, and federal permits required for this project must be provided. Number 2, the proposed sidewalk is in conflict with the existing parking lot on Dove Park Road and needs to be revised so that the sidewalk location or endpoint eliminates this conflict. Number 3, Tammany Utilities does not currently have the required sewer capacity to service this development. The required sewer capacity must be constructed and accepted by the utility provider before construction of any homes, including spec homes, is permitted. Additionally, all plans required for the expansion of the wastewater treatment plant must be submitted to the parish for review and approval. Grading and drainage plans, comment number 4, revise section HH to show the proposed cut areas extending out until the limits meet up with the existing ground. The Department of Development Planning, comment number 5, the west side of Dove Park Estates does not have any access to the amenities located on the east side of the development. Additionally, the proposed sidewalk that will provide access to the Tammany Trace does not connect to the west side of the development. Informational items, a funded maintenance obligation in the amount of $10,000 is required in accordance with St. Tammany Code of Ordinances, Part 2, Land Development Code, Chapter 125, Subdivision Regulations, Article 7, Studies, Plans, and Review Procedures, Section 125-201, Maintenance Obligations. Paragraph A, which states that a funded letters of credit for existing parish roads to ensure the repair of any damage to the roads resulting from the construction in connection with the subdivision. Mandatory developmental fees will be required at final submittal in accordance with Subdivision Code, Part 2, Land Development Code, Chapter 125, Subdivision Regulations, since no public hearing was held prior to January 1st, 2005. The developers hereby advise that upon application for final subdivision approval, the engineer of record for the development shall certify in writing that all aspects of construction have been completed in accordance with the approved plans and parish ordinances. if any construction activity is proposed that is not in substantial compliance with the approved plans and parish ordinances, the engineer of record for the development shall notify in writing the Department of Development prior to beginning said construction activity. The developer and/or the engineer of record shall obtain written approval from the Department of Development prior to beginning any proposed construction activity that's not in substantial compliance with the approved plans and parish ordinances. Revised drawings will not be accepted prior to the May 8, 2018 Planning Commission meeting to ensure that any additional comments at the meeting can be incorporated into the revised plans.
Thank you. Mr. Marone.
Thank you, Mr. Manel. Paul Marone on behalf of the developer of Dove Park Estates. Looking at some of the commissioners, I believe it appears that you all have your plats in front of you this week. So that's an approval from last month, so hopefully we're starting off on a better foot than we did at our April meeting. If you'll notice the staff comment list, you'll see that it is significantly shorter than what you saw last month. Our engineer and the developer have been working with Mr. Watson and your staff to whittle away at those issues. Of the issues that remain, there are only a few. The first is the issue of the proposed sidewalk and a potential conflict with the parking lot that is an aggregate parking lot in front of the Clico substation between the drives of our development and the Tammany Trace. If you will look at the aerial that was just handed out to you by Ms. Kara, you will see that we have included in that a diagram on the aerial which indicates that the proposed sidewalk does not conflict with the ability for cars to park in that parking lot. There will be enough room between the existing fence that's there and the edge of our our sidewalk to accommodate any parking that goes on in that area. So we believe that the plan as shown with regards to that sidewalk is not in conflict and should work and function properly. With regards to Tammany Utilities and the capacity, we are aware of that issue. We have been aware of that issue for some time. Mr. Herberger, the developer, has been in contact with Tammany Utilities. We recognize that that expansion is going to have to take place. We have submitted plans to them. They have reviewed those. We spoke to Mr. Tarragano as recently as today with Tammany Utilities about that, and we are fully prepared to comply with the requirements of having that capacity in place before any permits are pulled for any homes on the site, including the model homes. We understand that we'll be coordinating, of course, with Mr. Watson and engineering as well as Tammany Utilities with regards to that expansion. And we are confident that we can have that done during the time that we're putting the other infrastructure in for the development so that we will have that capacity there ready for our connection and our use at the time we're ready to pull any building permits. But we understand that no building permits can be pulled until that capacity is in place per this comment, and we will comply with that accordingly. With regard to the grading and drainage plan, our engineer has reviewed this requirement. This is a simple change or modification to the plans that can be handled in his office, and it will be taken care of readily. With regards to the Department of Planning, if you will recall, we came back to you several months ago to amend our PUD plan that gives us the design that you see on the plan today. And you may recall discussions at the original PUD hearing and at the amendment of the unusual characteristics or challenges that we have with this site with regards to wetlands, highly sensitive drainage areas that run through the property, including the little creek. As a result of those, that has dictated our design, and that has dictated the fact that there is an east side and a west side. And so it is for that reason that you see the design that is before you, and it is for that reason that we don't have the sidewalk connecting across. Because to connect that sidewalk from the west to the east side, you would have to cross the little creek. You would also have to cross some wetlands in that area. So what we would propose as an alternative, and I mentioned this to you at our meeting in April, is that we include parking spaces on the west side, on the east side, so that the residents from the west side will have a place to park at the existing park and green space area within the development. That will allow them to enjoy the interior green space, but it will also allow them to connect to the sidewalk if they want to take that to the trace. So we would propose that as an alternative for your consideration this evening with regards to that item. Finally, there are 3 waivers that we are requesting, and those are detailed in the handout that you see before you. And if you will notice, they are color-coded. One is the cul-de-sac length for the portion of the property along the west side. As you know, there is a cul-de-sac limitation of, I believe it's 700 feet, and we exceed that on that west side by 150 feet. So it is not a significant extension, but it is beyond the requirement that the code has. So we would respectfully request your approval of a waiver, given the characteristics of the property that we talked about earlier. And I do not believe that that creates any type of negative impact on this development, on our neighbors, or on any safety concerns. The second waiver is the waiver of the 60-foot distance from the corner to a driveway. If you will look at the plat, you will see the 4 blue lots that are shaded. Those are the lots where we need that waiver. However, I will tell you that the waiver we're requesting is a waiver of 2 feet. There is a 60-foot requirement. We can get within 2 feet of having that, but we for a 12-foot driveway, we would like to extend into it by 2 feet. I would respectfully submit to you that a 2 feet encroachment will not have a material difference or impact on these 4 parcels or on the overall traffic circulation or the safety with regards to the ingress, egress of these lots and the subdivision. Finally, the last waiver that we're requesting is regards to the lot frontage along several of the cul-de-sacs. As you will see, we've got, I believe, 9 lots where the frontage is less than is required. We do have at least 45 feet of frontage on each of those lots, and being that they are on a cul-de-sac and the lots are relatively deep, there should be adequate room for ingress and egress, and we would respectfully request your approval of that waiver. I'll be happy to answer any questions that you have. The staff comments, we believe we can address very quickly. We do not have any objection to any of them, and we believe that we've laid out reasonable and appropriate explanations and justifications for the waivers that we've requested this evening, and we would ask for your consideration with regards to each. Thank you, and I'll be happy to answer any questions that any of the commissioners may have.
Thank you, Mr. Marone. Is there anyone else in the public who wishes to speak in favor of the request? Is there anyone who wishes to speak in opposition? Seeing none, I close it to the public and bring it to the commission. Commissioner Drum.
Paul, you did say any questions.
Yes, sir.
Okay. Do you think this is going to interfere with me getting out of PJ's Coffee with the traffic after this is constructed?
I do not believe, Mr. Drum, there will be any impediment to you getting in or out of the PJ Coffee.
Okay, that's all I was worried about. Thank you.
Commissioner Lauren.
Mr. Morone,
Yes, sir.
could you tell us a little bit about what you have and what's planned for Lot 25, the playground? And let me tell you where I'm coming from. If you look at the plat, that playground is going to be surrounded by 5 of the lots. And unless it's a croquet or a badminton playground, that's going to be a lot of noise right behind a bunch of houses.
The proposal, I mean, you're not talking about major amenities there like a pool or anything of that nature or a clubhouse. Really what you're talking about in that area would be some playground equipment for children to play on.
But not like a softball court?
No,
Field.
nothing that would have a major impact. It's really, it would be a gathering place for families or smaller kids, swings, seesaws, things of that nature.
Okay, my concern was when you, as we learned a few weeks ago from another development, when you start getting playgrounds right across the property line from residential area, it gets to be conflict in the neighborhood.
Right, understood.
Commissioner Davis.
A question for staff. We were just handed these waivers, but I didn't see that in the agenda.
Yeah, I think it got lost in the shuffle since this was addressed to Ron.
So this is the first time that we're seeing the waivers tonight. Y'all have seen these already, though? Okay, so you've already, okay. But you didn't make a comment about these waivers in your informationals?
I didn't see the request for the waiver, no, so it wasn't a comment in there.
So is this the first time you've seen these as well?
This is the first time I've seen this letter, yes.
Thank you.
Commissioner Randolph.
Yes, sir.
Would you explain again the lot frontage impact or changes, if you will, as it relates to the cul-de-sacs?
Yes, there is a requirement in the code that there be at least a 60-foot frontage for lots on a cul-de-sac. In this instance, we have 9 lots that are fronting the cul-de-sac that have less than the 60-foot frontage. Now, each of those lots, though, have at least 45 or 46 feet of frontage on the cul-de-sac. So there is ample room to get in and out. I mean, it's not uncommon to have a 40-foot lot, garden home lot, or standard lots that might be 40 feet. However, because they don't meet the 60-foot minimum, it requires that we make the request for a waiver on those particular lots.
Okay. The other question is in reference to the driveways. You said something about a 60-foot distance, if you will. You're requesting a 2
Yeah,
feet
let me explain that a
encroachment?
little further. So
Okay.
if you look at the plan, you will see that the 4 lots shaded in blue, each of those lots have a width of 70 feet. There is a requirement that you can't have a driveway within 60 feet of the corner. And so we've got 70 feet, so we're going to move our driveway all the way across the lot to the far lot line. But if we have a 12-foot drive, then we have encroached 2 feet into that 60-foot difference or distance,
Okay.
if that makes sense. So it is a minor encroachment, but an encroachment nonetheless.
Okay. That's it. That's all my questions.
Thank you. Commissioner Richard.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. A couple of things. I too, like Commissioner Davis, was a little concerned that staff didn't have any comments on this. We're seeing it for the first time. Staff looks like they're seeing it for the first time. It's a little bit troublesome there, because quite frankly, we look for a recommendation. Also, this would require a waiver, which means we need to make sure we have our minimum of 8 votes. Is that correct? 2/3? So we need to keep that in mind. That being said, and I'm a stickler for these 3 issues that we've got here. I'll start with the cul-de-sac. 45 foot's the minimum that they're saying they have there. I know we just had one of the other petitioners, and they were less. They worked with us, and we got them up to in the 30s. So 45 foot is not ideal, but it's not as tight. And again, with the 45 foot, it's about off-street parking. It's not all about just a driveway. and stacking of a driveway. You have to have room in that cul-de-sac to have some off-street parking, because people have visitors. The length of the street, I'm a little less concerned about. I know that's, again, a safety issue. We're talking about moving 150 feet. We've seen some that have been really, 1,500 feet. Those were obviously too far. I mean, is that within a tolerance percentage? Perhaps. And finally, the distance from the intersection, if we stipulate it's 58 feet instead of 60 feet on this particular one as a waiver, I could support that. Just need to make sure it's 58 feet and not, 40 or whatever else, which, that would give you an opportunity to comply to the best of your ability. So with those, I'll move to approve. But again, I'm more concerned about not having staff comment. And I know it was an oversight, but it puts us a little bit in the blind here. And fortunately, we've seen this enough to kind of know, I think, what you're going to say, but we do rely on your comments. Thank you.
So Commissioner Richard, you wish to make a motion to approve with the waivers? All three? Thank you. 58 feet. Commissioner Davis.
I'll second that motion.
Motion second by Commissioner Davis. Are there any further comments? If not, we have a motion by Commissioner Richard to approve with all three waivers, second by Commissioner Davis. And as Commissioner Richard stated, it will take 8 votes to approve the waivers. Please vote.
Motion passed.
Final subdivision review, we have none. Amendments to Chapter 125 subdivision regulations, we have none. And is there any old business to come before the commission? Any new business? If not, I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.